Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. That's right, this is the show where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a more informed gaming newbie. How about that? What is going on, you guys? Hopefully I don't sound like a robot today that's like sunk underwater. Yesterday, I guess my stream just, when it popped up, it sounded really weird. So hopefully no more sound problems. But yeah, we're not here to be talking about sound problems. We're here to talk about this D&D Essentials Kit. And I got to say, I'm really digging D&D, guys. And I've reviewed tons of games. How many? Like 15, maybe 20 games, RPGs before I ever got to Dungeons and Dragons. And I got to say, I'm really digging it. Now, tonight, we're going to be going over the magic. And this is like one of my favorite parts. There's no secret at all. Let me get my page open here. It's no secret at all that I love playing spellcasters. I don't know why, but I'm just always drawn to it. I would love to play like a damage dealing spellcaster in Dungeons and Dragons. It's probably a wizard, and just kind of find out how that really plays out in real life. There's just so much to keep in mind when you play a caster, and there's casting times and spell slots and different ranges and effects, and it sounds really awesome. And we're going to be going over a lot of this stuff tonight. Now, when we crack open the book, it starts off kind of describing what a spell is. I don't really think we need to go over what magic and what a spell is. I'm pretty sure most of you know what that is. But they did have a really cool quote in here. I just kind of thought it was poetic. So I'm just going to tell you what the book says about a spell. They say, in casting a spell, a character carefully plucks at the invisible strands of raw magic, suffusing the world, pins them in place in a particular pattern, sets them in vibrating in a specific way, and then releases them to unleash the desired effect. In most cases, all in the span of seconds. It just sounds poetic to me. I love the way they describe that in the book. So very well done in the writing. Just remember that, kind of that poetic sense to it when you go to cast a spell in the game. Add some flavor into it. Instead of just saying, hey, I cast Fireball, throw some dramatic effect in there, just kind of to spice things up. And I try to kind of make one up. What might I say? This sounds so cheesy now I'm reading it back, but hey, it's cheesy. We're role playing, right? With a loud roar, I begin my incantation as I match my well-practiced hand movements as my hands start to glow red. The power builds in my hands as the flame becomes more and more intense. I focus my concentration on the area between the two orcs as the fireball leaves my hands and explodes on the targets. Hell yeah, dude. Like, role play a little bit. Spice it up. Be goofy. It's a role-playing game. Be goofy. You're supposed to, man. It's kind of like dancing. It's like, dance like nobody's watching. Yeah, role play like nobody's watching because nobody cares. And the more you're into it, the more other people are going to get into it. So just do it, man. I don't know. Just something cool to spice things up every now and then. I guess every time. Maybe it might be a little bit over the top. Maybe not, though. Maybe your group is like really into it. That's what the kind of group I think I would like to be in. Just really get into that character. Sounds like a lot of fun. All right, Tim, get off your soapbox. Let's talk about spells, all right? Talk about spells. There's 8 different categories of magic called the schools of magic, okay? And each school is just sort of helps describe the spells in their own categories. So there's abjuration, conjuration, divination, enchantment, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation. Boy, it's a lot of words. So let's go over each one of them just a little bit with a quick description so that you can kind of, now, the more you play, you're going to understand more what these spells do, but they give kind of a quick breakdown of what kind of each category is. So like abjuration is more like protective type spells where you're creating barriers or warding against trespassers and those type of things. What's up, Scott? Good to see you over there on Facebook, my dude. Conjuration spells are more like where you're transporting objects or even creatures or people from one place to another. Divination spells, they say it reveals the future or locations of hidden stuff. That sounds pretty cool to me. It says that you can do visions of people far away or places far away, things like that. Enchantments, they affect kind of like the minds of others, influencing them or controlling them. That sounds like fun. Evocation, I was a wizard on EverQuest, and so most of my spells were evocation. So those are like your blast of fire. But they said also you can channel this evocation type energy to heal wounds as well, which is very different from the MMO that I played. Illusion, School of Magic, is to those spells are typically to deceive the minds of others, so you're tricking them into think that they see something that they don't. Necromancy, manipulate the energies of life and death. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we all know what necromancy is. Transmutation, this is to change the properties or physical form of a creature or object. That sounds pretty cool too. You can transmutate. Could you transmutate like lead into gold? I wonder. Hey, one of you D&D people, let me know. Can you transmutate like lead into gold and then like trade that for money? I'm sure there's probably a limit on it. Let me know. Let me know down in the comments. All right, now spell levels. We kind of need to go over this a little bit. Each spell has its own level associated with it, and it's located in the description of each spell. So this one says second level illusion, second level transmutation. So it tells you right there in the description of the spell. And basically the level of the spell kind of tells you how powerful the spell is for the most part. The higher the level spell, then the higher level your character has to be in order to cast it. But it's not like a one-to-one correlation. So you might think that if a spell is third level, then I have to be third level to cast it. And that's actually not the case. In fact, you have to be level 5 before you can cast level 3 spells, okay? So just check the book. All of it's indicated in the class section of the book for easy reference. I think we look at it on our, when we get to wizard stuff. Let me see. I think I actually refer back to this page in just a minute. But yeah, if you're looking at the wizard, it has a little chart here at first level. Here's the type of spells that you can get. You get 2 first level spells. At level 2, you get 3 first level spells. Then at level 3, you get 4 first level spells and 2 second level spells. So anyways, just know that the book kind of tells you all that. And so it has it right there for you for your easy reference there. Now, there's also some spells called cantrips that are level 0. And I'll be going over those in just a few minutes. But just know that cantrips are level 0. Now, before you can use a spell, you have to have it kind of firmly fixed in your mind. Okay, clerics and wizards go through a process of kind of preparing their spells. And the number of spells that you can kind of fix in your mind that you can kind of memorize kind of sounds right to me. So the number of spells that you can kind of memorize or have fixed in your mind at one time is in the book, kind of related to your character, a wizard or a cleric, whatever. You'll have that in there. You may have 5 or 6 spells available to you, but you can only choose to cast from the ones that you have prepared, the ones that you have memorized, right? You kind of have to do that at the beginning of the day. Now, at level 1, like if you're a level 1 wizard, you can have 4 spells prepared, meaning that you can cast 4 different spells, all right? At level 2, you can cast 5 spells, or you can have 5 spells prepared. At level 3, you can have 6. At level 4, you can have 7, and so on. It just adds 1 each level. Now, you can change the list of spells that you have prepared after a long rest. And so you remember that long rest is like after you slept pretty much, 8-hour rest. Then you can change up those spells that you have memorized. You just have to spend some time in meditation or study. And it's like 1 minute per spell level for each spell that you want to put on your prepared spell list. I call it memorized because that's how EverQuest always did it. So they call it prepared spells. So this is kind of tough on the casters, to be honest. You have to think about the sorts of things that you might need later on in the day, even though you have no clue what's in store for you. You have to choose, these prepared spells, what spells you're going to be using very wisely. So it takes some forethought and honestly a little bit of intuition maybe to figure out what you might need later on in that day. Are we going to be fighting this day? Are we going to be kind of going to the city and chilling out? What kind of things might I need? And so it's kind of memorizing or preparing those important spells is really going to play a big part in it. That's kind of why I like to play a caster. It takes that forethought and that just has the extra steps. I don't know. It just sounds cool to me. All right. So regardless of how many prepared spells that you have or how many spells that you know, you can only cast a limited number of spells before resting. All right. And they say that casting spells is very mentally taxing, and casting higher level spells is even more mentally taxing on you. All right. And what they have here is to represent this effect of being mentally taxed or whatever. D&D uses what's known as spell slots. And you might have heard of this before. I heard about it before when I didn't know anything about D&D. I just didn't know what it was. So spell slots tell you like kind of how many and what level spells that you can cast until you're maxed out for the day. At level 1, a wizard, and it has all this on our chart. Where was it? Page 21. At level 1, our wizard, you can have 2 first level spell slots. Okay. So this means that you can cast 2 level 1 spells, then you'll need to finish a long rest before those slots become empty again, and you can cast 2 more. Okay, so at level 1, you get 2 first level spell slots. But there's more to it than that, all right? So notice how I said that there are 2 first level slots. So that's right. Different level spells require different level spell slots. And I kind of like the way that the book describes this. And it says, when a character casts a spell, they expend a spell slot of that spell's level or higher. And it says that you can think of a spell slot as a groove of a certain size. It's small for a level 1 spot or larger for a spell of a higher level. So a first level spell fits into any slot size, but a third level spell will only fit in a slot that is at least 3rd level or higher. Okay, so you can use a lower level spell slot. It's so hard for me to say. Spell slot, lower level spell slot, in a higher level. You can use a lower level spell in a higher level spell slot. I'll get it out, guys, but not vice versa. All right, so you can't use a level 3 spell in a level 1 spell slot. Hope that makes sense. So at level 3 on your wizard, once you finally get up to level 3, you will have 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots. Okay. So at level 3, your wizard can cast, 4 level 1 spells and 2 level 2 spells, or you could use some of those level 2 spell slots to cast even more level 1 spells. All right. Does that kind of make sense? You kind of use those spell slots. All right. So if you use a higher level spell slot though, for a lower level spell, then the spell assumes the higher level for that casting. So let's just say that we're using Magic Missile, which is a first level spell. And we're going to use a level 2 spell slot for it because, I don't know, we're out of level 1 slots or something, or we just want it to be better. Well, then that Magic Missile spell being cast is not going to be cast at level 1, but instead it's going to be cast at level 2 because that's the slot that we're using. So some spells, Magic Missile included, they have more powerful effects when you use them in this way, and it's kind of noted in the spell's description what you get to do, what kind of bonuses you get. So yeah, spell slots, they kind of limit the amount of spells that you can cast per day, basically. So basically, when you're out of spell slots, what do you do then? Well, are you just kind of SOL? No, there's still some things that you can do. There are some spells that you can cast that don't need any spell slots, and they're called cantrips. You don't have to prepare them in advance or anything like that. They're considered to be level 0 spells, basically, like we said earlier. And cantrips are magic spells, sort of, that you have practiced and rehearsed so much that it kind of becomes like second nature to you, and it takes almost no energy to perform. That's why it doesn't take up a spell slot. And the book has, quite a number of cantrips for you to use. For our level 1 wizard, we get Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, that's such a crazy word, Prestidigitation, Ray of Frost, and Shocking Grasp. And you can basically cast these whenever you want. They don't cost you anything. So if you want to save your spell slots for later, or if you've already used all yours and for the day, then you can bust out those cantrips, and that will allow you to be more than just a bump on the log and allow you to still cast some spells, right? All right. So some spells, let me flip back here to my page. So some spells have a special tag on them called a ritual. And this means that you can cast it following kind of the normal rules, or you can cast it as a ritual. And the ritual version of a spell takes 10 minutes longer to cast than normal, and it does not expend a spell slot. All right. So it's kind of like just a more prepared version. So instead of like taking one action round or two action rounds, it's going to take you full 10 minutes to do, but it's not going to take up one of your spell slots. So if you have the time to do something, then you might want to use a ritual instead. Okay. So we've kind of gone over what spells are, what spell slots are, spell levels and cantrips. Now let's talk about actually casting spells. Pretty much everything that I'm going to go over in this section is noted in the individual spell or cantrip description, so you don't have to memorize any of this. It's just going to kind of go over each part of the description of it, so you can kind of know what you're looking at when you get to that part. So the description tells you things like the level of the spell, the casting time, the range, any components that might be needed, and also the duration of the spell. So most spells are going to cost a single action to cast, all right? So just one action. But some require like a bonus action, a reaction, or just much more time, like the rituals we talked about. Some spells, including rituals, that require this, a lot more time to cast, could be up to minutes or even hours if it's a long ritual. If you're casting one of these long spells or performing a ritual longer than a single action, you have to spend your action each turn casting that spell. So you're kind of like focused, right? You're spending that action on your turn just to cast that spell. You have to maintain what they call concentration while you do so, or else the spell fails, or if it's a spell that you have already cast on somebody, it will actually wear off if you break your concentration. And if you fail, you have to do it all over again. So if you're concentrating on casting a spell and it takes, 10 action rounds to do so, and you're 5 action rounds in, and then you drop it to do something else, you have to start all over again for 10 more action rounds. That's just how it works. So yeah, other spells, like I said, require you to maintain your concentration to keep the effect going. And this is kind of cool to me. You can lose your concentration a few different ways. Like if you try to cast another spell, that will actually drop your concentration, or taking damage. And if you do take some damage, just know that you can make a saving throw to keep your concentration, but it's not guaranteed. So try to avoid, being hit in combat. Also, being incapacitated or killed. Yeah, that would definitely break your concentration. If I'm knocked out or if I'm dead, I'm not gonna be able to concentrate on that spell anymore. So, yeah. Now, components. If you look in the description, some of them, some spells actually need components, and these are kind of like physical requirements that are needed in order to be cast, right? And they have initials for these: V as in Victor, S, and M. All right. So if you have a verbal component, V, where you have to chant some type of mystical words in order to cast a spell. Now, if it does require that, if you're gagged or in an area of silence, or maybe even underwater, I'm not sure about that one, then you're not going to be able to cast it. Some have somatic, which is the S, if it has an S next to it, a somatic component to them. And somatics are they're hand gestures, right, needed to cast the spell. And you need to have at least one hand free in order to cast these types of spells. Now, still yet, others have material components listed, and so it'll have an M next to it. And you have to physically have that material or object or whatever it is to cast a spell. Now, some of the spells, they just require you to have it, like you can just have it, and it's not consumed. But other spells actually consume whatever material is required, and you have to kind of replenish your stock whenever you go back in town or whatever. So if you run out of that component, you can no longer cast that spell. That makes sense. Now, it also tells you the types of spells that they have. Some of them are area of effect spells, where some are single target, where I'm just going to, cast this on this creature. Some of them are area of effect spells. And so that kind of affects an entire area. So these type of spells will affect everything in this kind of damage area, and it can hurt like several creatures or people, whatever, at once. And how this kind of works is you pick a spell. You pick like a point of origin for your spell that you kind of set where it's going to land, and it's just going to radiate out from there in different shapes. And it's kind of noted in the spell description what shapes it goes in. It can be like a cone shape that goes like straight out from my body in a cone shape if I want to, or from this point of origin, it goes in a cone shape in this direction. It's whatever you want. So yeah, it just kind of hits everything in that cone, or it could be like a cube shape or a straight line or a sphere. And again, those are all noted in the spell description for you. So let's look at a couple spells here and see how things work in real life a little bit. Let's kind of look at one of these. Where was it? Magic Missile. Let's look at this one here. So Magic Missile is a first level evocation spell, and it tells us that it has a casting time of 1 action. I mean, it's going to take our full 1 action in order to cast that spell. It has a range of 120 feet, so we have to be within 120 feet of our target. Component is V or S, and so we know it's somatic and verbal, so we have to be able to both talk and be able to wave at least one hand in order to cast this spell. The duration is it's instant, so it's not like it's going to last for 20 minutes and wear off. No, it's a magic missile. It's going to hit you and it's going to hurt. All right, so it's instant. And so the description of this says you create 3 glowing darts of magical force. Each dart hits a creature of your choice within range that you can see, right? You can see within range. Read those closely. Each one of these darts, you got 3 of these darts that are going out there, right? A dart deals 1d4 plus 1 damage to its target. So that means you're going to roll a d4, 4-sided dice. Then you're going to add 1 to that roll, and it's going to do that much damage to the target. The darts all strike at the same time, okay? And you can direct them to hit just 1 creature. You can have all 3 of them hit 1, or you can have them hit several creatures, right? If you got 3 creatures, you can have 1 hit each one. Each one you're going to roll 1d4 plus 1 damage to it. Now at higher levels, when you cast this spell using a slot of the 2nd level or higher, then the spell creates 1 additional dart for each slot above the first. So, if you use a 2nd level spell slot, instead of 3 magic missiles, it's going to shoot 4. If you use a level 3 spell slot, then you're going to add another dart to that, right? So that's kind of how that works, and just kind of goes up. Now let's look at Fireball real quick. So Fireball is a 3rd level evocation spell. The casting time, again, is 1 action. Components are, it's verbal, somatic, and materials you need to have, and it tells us in the notes here, a tiny ball of bat guano and sulfur. Hey, go pick that up at your local Walmart or wherever they fine goods are sold, but make sure you have that on you or else you can't cast it. The duration, again, is instant. And the description says a bright streak flashes from your pointing finger to a point that you choose within range and then blossoms with a low roar into an explosion of flame. Each creature within a 20-foot radius, yeah, this is an area of effect spell, guys. Each creature within a 20-foot radius sphere centered on that point has to make a dexterity saving throw. I was trying to think, well, can they evade this? No. A target takes 8d6, so you're going to roll 8d6 dice fire damage, all right, on a failed save. So if they fail that dexterity save, they're going to take 8d6 fire damage. If they make a successful save, they're going to take 4d6, so that's cut in half. Still, 4d6 is a lot of damage. Even if they make their saving throw, 8d6 is even better. And the description kind of goes on. It says that the fire spreads around corners. It ignites flammable objects in the area that are not being worn or carried. And again, at higher levels, when you use this, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of the 4th level or higher, then the damage increases by 1d6 for each level slot above the 3rd level. All right, because it's a 3rd level spell. So if you use a 4th level spell slot for it, you're going to add an additional 1d6 to that damage. Pretty cool. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff in here. I love the idea of using magic. It just sounds like a lot of fun to me. Like I said, there seems to be a lot more to keep up with and kind of remember as a caster versus a melee fighter. I don't know, maybe that's my opinion. I don't know. It just sounds like I really enjoy it. So yeah, that's about it for tonight. Do me a favor and like the stream. Hit that subscribe button, guys. It's free. It's just down there. Hit it. Join the Misfits of Tabletop Facebook group. The link is down there in the description. All right. We just hit 2,000 members today. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, that link is just right down there. I'm also working on a Patreon. If you'd like to support me financially, every little bit kind of helps offset the cost of books and the crazy amount of time that I spend preparing for the streams. The link to the Patreon is down there in the description as well. I'll have more information about the Patreon as I kind of finish getting it all set up and completed, but it is live right now. So if you want to throw me a couple bucks, I'd really appreciate it. All right, that's it for me tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back on Monday, and we're going to be going over those new sidekicks that just came out with this D&D Essentials kit and some more stuff. So we'll see you then. All right, good night. Bye.